Well, Democrats seem even more divided with the midterms looming amid reports some uneasy Democratic candidates are starting to pin the blame on President Obama for their struggles. Let's bring in Shira Center, politics editor for Roll Call, and Mike Warren, staff writer for the Weekly Standard. Good to see you both.
Thank you. There.
All right, Cheryl, I'll start with you. I mean, do you think that this is sort of managing expectations or setting things up so that the Democrats can somewhat, if potentially gracefully say come November 4th or whenever this is all decided, we did our best, but the president's to blame?
Right. This is part of the initial stage of what we like to call blame game, right? When things are heading south, this is when the polling memos start coming out and people really start to toss blame and accusations about who's going to be responsible for the mess that will probably happen for Democrats on November 4th. And Democrats outside of the White House are definitely pointing the blame at the White House. They're very frustrated just on a tactical level on how little the president has done in terms of organizing and getting people together to turn out on November 4th.
Well, and Mike, though the president, one thing he's done very well is continue to fundraise, and there's been great turnout. He's really raked in a lot of cash, which Democrats need to spread really across the country in all these different races. So he's doing well on that front, but when it comes to candidates actually being seen with him on the campaign trail, it seems like that's where they draw the line.
Right. Well, this is probably the best thing that Obama can do in this political environment. And the money's actually been spent pretty well. A lot of these races, you would have thought that the Republicans would have been running away. But Democrats are holding, particularly in places like North Carolina. And that has a lot to do with money, the fact that they've been outspending Republicans on a lot of these ads. But on the other side of this is President Obama has actually been going out there and saying things like, as he said a week and a half ago, you know, my policies are on the ballot. He was on a hip-hop radio station in Atlanta just last week saying, vote for Democrat Michelle Nunn and we can keep things going. And this has a lot to do with turning out the Democratic base, perhaps, turning out black voters in Georgia, for instance. But, of course, that's going to turn off swing voters who aren't too thrilled with President Obama lately. So he's sort of in this position where he needs to be doing things for the Democratic base, but it's not exactly working out to get those people in the middle that Democrats need to hold on.
Sure. Generally, these midterm or off-term, off-presidential elections don't go really well for presidents at this point in their term. So reading too much into it to say, oh, the GOP has suddenly convinced voters nationwide that they're the better party, or is this just kind of the cycle?
A lot of this does have to do with the cycle, and this is really the White House's main argument when they say, wait, guys, it's really not our fault, is they look at the Senate map, right? You're looking at senators up in states that the president lost by double-digit margins. In some cases, Mike has a point, it's really something that these guys are still running or still in the fight at all, given the president's approval rating in states like Arkansas and Louisiana and North Carolina and Georgia, right? It's really something that they're keeping it in contention in all of these red states.
All right, Mike, if the Senate does flip into GOP control, the president's a lame duck, essentially, doesn't control either house of Congress, his party doesn't, he's got a long 2 years left. Do you think Democrats will rally to him? I mean, he's the leader, essentially, of their party. Or do you think we're going to see even more of a break from him if that's what how this shakes out, that Congress is controlled entirely by Republicans and we've got a Democrat in the White House?
Well, history would dictate that they won't run from President Obama. I mean, that's a lot of why these Democratic senators are in trouble, is because they voted with him so often, even if it would hurt them politically. But you're right that the president does become a lame duck, and a lot of these people who are going to be reelected, Democrats in the House and some in the Senate, are looking beyond the president's own term and looking, 4, 6, 8 years ahead. So I think they probably will have a little bit of a break, and President Obama will continue to sort of decline in his influence. But I do want to say one quick thing about those states where Democrats are hanging on, and saying that the map favors Republicans here. Some of these states where Democrats are really losing, Colorado, Iowa, North Carolina, these are states President Obama won once or twice, and these were supposed to be the front for the new Democratic future. And now Republicans are doing really well in those states, particularly in Colorado. I think it suggests that President Obama really is on the ballot, and his agenda and his sort of promise from 6 years ago, and it's not working so well for Democrats.
Shira, a quick final comment from you on that same topic. Do you think Democrats will rally to him the last couple of years, or if they're sitting there essentially somewhat powerless? I mean, they always have technical tools they can use on the Hill. Do you think that they'll go along with whatever he wants to try to get done in his last 2 years, or say, you're on your own, I got to think about my own political future now?
Oh, I think the next 2 years are going to be really interesting, especially because you're looking at probably looking at extended majorities in both the House and the Senate for Republicans, and as a result, the caucus is just going to become more diverse, right? So you're going to get probably a few more moderate Republican members in the Senate, and that combined with another factor, which is the 2016 elections. I don't mean to get totally ahead of ourselves, ahead of next week, but the 2016 elections are the exact opposite of the 2014 elections, that you have a lot of Republican senators up for re-election and really blue states. So in that case, you might see some Republican senators working with Democrats a little more than you might expect because of the dynamics of their own political futures.
We would all like to see them be able to get something done on the Hill, but that would maybe make news at this point. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Mike and Shira, great to see you both.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
Let's continue.